Okay, a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I know some of you will still be filtering in, but we have 5 great speakers and a lot to get through, and probably most importantly, we have a drinks reception that we don't want to be too late to. So in the interest of time, we'll just kick off, and obviously people will join as they come in. If for some reason you didn't get to know me yet, probably all the best for you, I'm afraid. But my name is Christopher Ludwig. I'm the editor of Automotive Logistics, working with Louis. It's my pleasure to host you and bring you all back together after a couple of breakout sessions, during which I hope you got some good information and some chance to drill down into some of your subject areas. But now we like to bring everybody back together to talk about a topic that really is relevant to pretty much everyone in the room, whether you're an inbound, outbound, service parts, in-plant, if you're a car maker, supplier, logistics provider, consultant. What's the direction that the supply chain is evolving, the role of digitalization that is playing, environmental issues. We're going to cover a lot of that, almost all of that, in this session, and so we look forward to that. Before we kind of move into the meat and nitty-gritty, so to say, a couple of points. We did mention, I mentioned we'll have the gala dinner directly after this session. We'll have some buses leaving from the front of the hotel. It'll be slightly staggered. There'll be one leaving pretty soon after the session, and then another some 15 minutes later or whatever it might be. So you'll have some time if you need to drop things off, but do make your way after this session to the front as soon as you're ready, and we'll head over. For those of you who haven't, at some point before you leave the conference, head over to one of the stations where we have iPads. Give us your feedback. Let us know what you think of the conference. We really appreciate that. Obviously, we moved the time of year to June, as Louis said, for the weather, which obviously we're enjoying. And obviously, we're trying to be creative with the format. We're trying to change certain things so this conference isn't just a repeat of what goes before. We want to reflect the dynamics of the industry, and we really need your feedback to do that. So please do take a few minutes and give us your feedback. Also, as mentioned, we do the voting at the end quickly, so you can give us a little feedback there, and we'll do that at the end of this session as well. As well as tomorrow, we'll have a bit more interactive voting. We'll vote on some topics and trends to get to take the pulse of the room on that. And also, just before we kick off, you're probably wondering why I'm advertising this box of Fortnum & Mason biscuits. It's not just in case our speakers get hungry during the session, although it's a bit of a shame now that I put that idea in their head. But we were asking you to put in business cards at the start when you registered, and we're going to give away the biscuits. We like to say it's the Queen's favorite biscuits, or at least that's what she told me the last time I saw her. So I think if I can invite my lovely assistant, or a lovely assistant. I think there's one in the room that was meant to come and put this, but otherwise I'm going to have to pull it out myself, which I think is what was maybe the idea. So I'm my own assistant. I guess that works in this day of automation and cooperative robots and things like that. So our winner from Activium, Armin Chilian. Is he in the room? Yeah, okay, great. I'd like to give you a box of the Queen's biscuits here to enjoy. Thank you for coming. Thanks for participating. Cheers. So we'll use them wisely. Eat them wisely. Maybe you can read the fortune of the UK election tomorrow for us as well in there. I don't know. All right. So again, as I mentioned, we have a lot to go through in this session. I don't want to take too much of the time away from the real experts that are up there, but maybe this just a small, brief summary of context, just recalling a little bit about what we heard in the first session this morning, for those of you who were there or maybe weren't. Christoph Stürmer from PwC used at least the PwC acronym to describe some of the mega trends going in the world. They called it EASY. So I think it was E for electronic, A for autonomous, S for shared, as in shared mobility. I'll be missing one, C for connected, and Y for yearly updates or young products, or a fast-changing product cycle. Daimler calls it CASE. Everyone has a different sort of acronym for that. Obviously it's a good acronym, but we all know it's not easy to say that. Hopefully, maybe it's easy for customers, but it's not going to be easy for the industry. Mr. Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Accord maybe is just one little highlight of how things diverge across the world, and there's not really one monolithic trend that we can point to. Car makers are investing billions in autonomous vehicles, but it's not really clear when they'll be on the road in a mass level, whether that'll be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years, whether the regulations will hold it up. We talk about, obviously, electric vehicles, still a small share of the market, and as this session will bring up, there's other kinds of alternative fuel and power that we should think about as well. We talk about smart factories and Industry 4.0, but there are infrastructure limits that might change or limit what we can do in a brownfield factory in terms of some of the very nice kit and technology or the modular concepts that look so nice on videos and screens. So there is a kind of vision, there are things we can do, but I think there's also the realistic constraints. And I think part of this session, part of this conference really is to show us the direction we can go, but also to keep in mind some of what we can do today and bring it sort of back down to reality. And I think that's what some of our panelists will be able to kind of show you in the course of this session. Allow me to introduce them to you. It'll be our usual format. We'll have roughly 15 minutes from each speaker, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A before we send you off into the night to enjoy some beers and food. So we're very pleased to welcome for the first time to our conference here, I believe, Matthias Braun, who's the head of network planning and location projects for Volkswagen Logistics, based there in Wolfsburg. We'll next hear from Jan Cirullies, head of Department of Digitization in Logistics from the Fraunhofer-Institut, of course a very reputed and reputable and important research organization here in Germany. Emmanuel Arnaud, VP of Commerce and Marketing for a little logistics company called Jeffco. And we'll have a dual presentation or consecutive presentations from Iveco and ISST Automotive Logistics. Fabio Pellegrinelli, Business Development Manager for gas at Iveco, and followed by Marco Simone Zana, Head of ISST Automotive Logistics at ISST Automotive Logistics, as it were. And we have a note as well, we have a nice cross-section of European nationalities and companies here, Germany, France, Italy. Therefore, I expect they will disagree on everything. So look forward to the discussion that will come after. I'd like to give the floor over now to Matthias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Christopher, for the introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for giving me the chance presenting to you our ideas within the Volkswagen Group of digitization. And as you see, we don't think that this is something that we can do on our own. This is something that we see as a common responsibility, and why this is so. Hopefully this will be clear at the end of the presentation. But before I start with my main part of the presentation, please let me give you a short introduction why we have a high motivation for doing this as a common responsibility. As you see here, in the morning there was somebody was talking about complexity in the supply chain. This is a scheme of our complexity within the Volkswagen Logistics world, where we are talking about 8,500 suppliers worldwide that are bringing their goods within our transport networks by truck, by train, or by ship to our plants, 120 plants that we have around the world, component plants and also our vehicle plants, surely. And then we leave it up to the plants to produce the beautiful cars. But at the end of the day, it also needs to be shipped to our customers and dealers, and this is also done within a network that we are responsible for in the group logistics, bringing this to 153 sales markets. So this is the complexity that we are living in every day in the Volkswagen Group, that we are sharing with our partners. And that is why we think it's quite important to talk about, in a common sense, of the responsibility and the possibilities of digitization. But when we talk about digitization, I would like to go through this quick agenda, talking to you, and perhaps afterwards discussing with you. This is simply said, but it's challenging in the implementation. What we have been trying out and where we are now implementing this in a wider spread within our European network, at least. When you close your eyes and you think or dream or whatever of digitization, a lot of keywords, buzzwords will come into your mind. And if I would ask 5 persons of you here, there might be 10 different names or ideas coming out of what you reflect to be digitization. And this was for us also a challenging task where we, at least within our responsibility in the group logistics, said, okay, first of all, we need to make a good description of what we understand what is this, what it means for us. And this is not a group-wide, don't please take it as a group-wide for all of the processes, sales, purchasing, quality or whatever definition, what Volkswagen Group understands about digitization. It's within a small bundle of creators who try to develop things in the future within inbound logistic processes. We had a lot of discussions about that, and the outcome was 2 little sentences. What we understand, what is this? Digitization project for us means that we transfer the manual projects or manual things into IT-supported processes. Common thing that we do now for 40, 50 years. But the main new thing about this, that we enable additional benefits through the use of digital technologies to combine existing digital support by reducing the manual interfaces between it. And that's how we tried to define what this means to us, because we didn't want to chase a digital ghost that is running in front of us without knowing what it is and presenting to the board some high sophisticated, sexy dashboards of new charts of whatever. What I see a lot of guys who are doing this and saying, now I'm a digital guy because I have a new dashboard. Because all about that is not having only a dashboard or something new and new with new colors and new PowerPoint formats or whatever. To use it to make really digitalization as one of our key enabler for the future means working in a strict process. When you want to make this new step, you really have to start at the very beginning of where do you have to put some sensors on the process to grab some new information. And then I have to assure the data quality. Otherwise, you know what's happening when you get wrong data or not the best quality. So you have to take care of the data collection. The next thing is, oh wow, data law, some restrictions that you have. What kind of data can you use? Can you use all the information from the truck driver? Can you use all the information from the warehouse managing guy? Can you use all the information from the partners? And then you have to talk with your IT colleagues about the architecture, how you use and how to create data backbones, data lakes, or whatever, name it however you want to call it. But you have to talk and inspire another organization or colleagues within your company to think about also new ways of working with that kind of information that you have. And then a thing that is also quite difficult, at least at a bigger organization like we are within the logistics of the Volkswagen Group, standardize things. Because otherwise you get the same information, you name it different, and then you cannot talk to each other about the same thing. You have to standardize processes, you have to standardize information points. You also have to standardize the way you interchange and communicate information between different parties inside and outside the factory. Talking about the 150 IT systems within Bosch warehouse. Then you can start also thinking about how can artificial intelligence support me by analyzing and working with the huge amount of data that you have. And out of that, perhaps you create a value with the data. You can put a price tag on it. Or that would be the greatest thing of all, at the end of this process, you have a new business model for using that kind of information that you triggered or that you got out of the process by putting the right sensors on. Doesn't necessarily mean that you need a new business model for an external business that you want to create. It's also with insight that you want to have another way of working, collaborating, new ways of analyzing things, optimizing things, etc. And we believe that this kind of process flow always is the key figure if you don't want to use digitization as an inflationary wording, buzzword that is so, well, sexy to everybody and everybody wants to have it. It's hard work and a structured process that you have to work in. Now, the theory was clear, and we had for us an idea what this means to us. Then we got back in our history and said, okay, have we ever been working in some kind of things where we try to make our world more digital than it was before? And we said, oh, yeah, we did. We did already in 2013, where we had a project that was public supported that was called Viloma, Visual Logistics Management, and you will hear later on in the next presentation also a little bit about that. We had with a lot of visionaries from different companies, from different partners within the supply chain of the automotive industry, a collaboration of 3 topics that we wanted to improve there. We saw, even in 2030, where digitalization was not part of everybody's MBO and revenue program or vision and strategy, we saw that we have to deal with an increasing flow of information that we have to work with. We are no longer able to visualize things the way we are doing it in these days. Because if you open an Excel sheet and the rows and the lines are ended and you cannot get more information in that, then it's quite hard to get any information out of that huge amount of data that you have therein. And this was one of the most revolutionary thing about that, cross-company data interchange. How can we share information across the whole supply chain with all the partners? And it was just only 4 years ago, but we were quite new in this, and we had also a lot of discussions with lawyers and those guys who support us in all this legal affairs. But it was a good collaboration there. We first of all, we had to put the objectives clearly. The target group was how to support our daily business within the supply chain, those who are dealing with all information and trying to support in any way that the line is running every day in the first tier or in the OEM plant. We also wanted to put in some predictive things, some predictive know-how, intelligence into that in order to foresee a little bit what's going on in the future and develop the real-time cross-company IT platform. Really challenging. We struggled in some fields, but at least we had there a clear understanding where we are, what we can do, and where we still need to improve in our collaboration between all the partners in the process. What we've reached 3 different levels of information that we bundled together. One was the classical monitoring, how to get a first impression of what's going on in the supply chain with my part numbers, etc., as a first impression of that. Then we had the possibility to get down for analyzing each and every part number, how the stock are, where the supply chains, how they are running, and also up to the trucks, where they're driving and how far away are they, will they reach their time window to come in a time, etc. And also we had support for decision-making motivations for our teams. How can they react? Just only by giving them some hints of what was useful in the past. And the benefits were quite clear out of that project with all of the partners. Yes, we do need a common database, which is not existing right now. There were 27 informations shared between all of the partners, and just only 9 were via EDI. The rest of them were all manually transferred by Excel sheets or text files. So therefore, we had a clear recommendation for the standardization of the formats within a wider distribution in all of our partners in the supply chain. We have there a common responsibility within that. This was also clear by looking at the information that was brought out of this project, that we cannot leave the responsibility to our service provider, supplier, or to the OEM. It's a common responsibility, also a new way of thinking. And therefore, based on that, we can take a joint decision for all of the supply chain partners that is visible and transparent why we take a decision A, B, or C. And we also do need better interfaces and better visual assistance. When I go to the operation guys within the plants, I still see the black monitors, the black screens with the green letters on it. And I think nobody from us would ever buy a computer with that kind of system support. So this brought us then also to the point to invest more time from us in the standardization of the EDI communication between all of the partners in the supply chain. And I'm not only talking about the material flow, I'm also talking about the empties flow. It is quite often forgotten that for shipping material, we need empty boxes. So therefore, always look at this in one loop and don't create anything new for things that are already existing. So first of all, we try to create the standards of the material flow and adapted them also then to the empties flow. So we have created there one format, and you see some are already in place, some are in preparation and in rollout. And I just only can ask everybody here in the room to support that kind of activities via all the organizations of ODET and the country organizations like the VDA here in Germany, to support that kind of activities and to implement this kind of interface communication, EDI communication between all of us in the supply chain. There are missing still some for the communication with all of our truck companies, of the LSPs, but we are also working on them and trying to use them for improving all of our communication. So please, let's do this together, because this is not something that we only have to work on as Volkswagen, even if there's a widespread of suppliers that we may reach. This is something that we all can participate from and get a benefit out of. So after trying out and getting or bringing more effort to some standardization things in the EDI communication, we also started last year in implementing the first new steps for us in our supply chain. When you see this triangle, it's not quality, cost, and predictability. It's here we are talking about a triangle of the daily collaboration for the workflow in the supply chain. We are talking about our group plans, where we send out our call-offs to the supplier. The supplier informs today the carrier what to pick up tomorrow, and then the carrier brings it to us. And for those of you who are involved in this process, you all know that the communication between the supplier and the carrier, everything is allowed. There are phone calls to give them the information what can be picked up. There is fax communication, there is emails, but there's no standardized format right now. There's so many kind of information, and we wanted to digitalize that. We didn't want to allow our partners that there are so many media breaks in between. So we send out a call-off, and based on this call-off, the supplier can make then the transport request based on a pre-filled information that we give him on an IT platform, or he can use the EDI format that is already existing. This information is transferred then via EDI to our carriers. So there's no manual action necessary now from the carrier to put this into his system for making the route planning and the transport orders, etc., etc. So this means that there's no manual acquisition anymore required. And as a feedback and as a benefit to the supplier gets then a confirmation when the parts will be picked up the next day. This is also quite new, because in the early day, or just last year, it was so that they started the communication, pick up something tomorrow, and there was a time slot from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And within this time, the truck was expected to pick up the parts. I think this is also not quite efficient. So the carrier comes back with the information, I will pick it up tomorrow between 2 and 3 p.m. and the parts must be ready then at your ramp, and then I will pick it up. And it's all transparent also via EDA, this communication. And we get the information early in our plants because we know from the transport request that the parts that we've ordered based on our call-off are produced that way and will be picked up tomorrow. So we have 1 day more of visibility where we can start also reducing our stock because then we have more reliability in the supply chain. All the discussions that are normal in the daily process, who's responsible for which delay, who didn't talk to whom, where was the information missing, and where was the lag, etc., etc. This now all disappears because we have one platform where everything is transparent to each of our partners. And this is not a closed platform where only Volkswagen works in. This is an open platform that we use there. We work there with an IT partner who is programming it based but on the open standards that everybody can use. So we don't want or didn't want to develop a Volkswagen economic system on our own. We know that we are not alone in this world, that we need everybody to work in the same way to get the efficiency out of the process. This is just only the start. This is not the end. That's what I wanted to say. This is where the starting point, because everybody's looking around right now. There are so many things turning around. The digitization things, the automation things. Where do you start? Where do you end? Or when do you enter to that game? We decided to enter the game with this process, the lack of communication between the carrier and the suppliers. And that's where we enter the game, where we now have started, where we now, until the end of this year, I hope that we have at least 80% of all of our forwarders within that system. We'll say, okay, this is the first step. We will implement also, or we will then start with our full truck loads, with our trains that we have, etc., etc. So the scope of modes that we will have there inside will grow bit by bit. But based on this kind of information, we also want to improve all the other processes that are around that. The time window control, when I know how the truck is running within the distance that he has to run, then I can also adjust the time window when it has to come to the plant and avoid that the truck, if he is faster, has to wait 2 hours in front of our plant. We can, the scheduling process, the bottleneck control, surely environmental accounting risk map, one of the also a quite modern thing that everybody is talking about, combining that kind of information with all the risk things that we get from the internet, where something is going, where winter is closing streets, where we do have risks because of some rumors, or some tunnels are closed because of whatever, refugees being there. Combining all that kind of information can really add in value to our supply chains, and also the transport billing process can be much easier if we have used the information that we get from the first day of the transport request and are not waiting for the huge bundle of paperwork that we right now are using for the billing process. So a lot of things that are still to come, and with these points that I've mentioned here, this is still not the end. What we want to do with our system that we call Discovery, this is our data backbone for all the transport relevant information. We want to get everything that is transport relevant, or by ship, or by plane, or by truck, or by rail. We want to get all the information that's between the supplier and our plants here within this platform for one database, and then we can use and spread it out to different other systems that can use this kind of information for their purposes within their daily business or tactical planning or strategic planning. And that's why, and that's my last chart. That was too fast. I just go, yeah, thank you. This is the last chart from my side. We want to cooperate in partnership. I always state this out quite loud because it's really my strong belief that only with partners, with collaboration between everybody in the supply chain, we can create effort or create more value to everybody. Readiness to increase data exchange is something that we really have to look at. We have to be open to share more information. We have to reduce the effort for data integration by using more standardized formats. Let's work on that. And then together we can work on and use the potential of digitalization in the logistics and also in the supply chain specifically. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Matthias. I think that's a great start to our session here. As Matthias said, this is the starting point that he pointed to. Where it goes next is something for the industry to work together on. I mean, there may be some, it was like discussed earlier, how could so many years go by in effect without this kind of EDI almost being there? It's maybe a question we should also be asking, but it's, that doesn't change the fact that something has to be done, and that's obviously a great place to start and then to build the innovation from there. And I think the point on collaboration, especially around standards and things, is super important as we go deeper into this subject. So thank you, Matthias, for your presentation. Next up, talking a bit more on the data security side and how that will all implicate in production and logistics. Jan Cirullies, head of the Department of Digitization and Logistics from Fraunhofer.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. Thank you very much for this kind introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jan Cirullies. I'm head of the Department of Digitization and Logistics at the Fraunhofer-Institut for Software and Systems Engineering in Dortmund, in Germany. I would like to continue from this excellent point of view from Matthias, because that's actually what I will speak about. When we speak about the evolving supply chain, we realize that digitization, that data exchange, is the key enabler for the supply chain as an ecosystem. This is why I will speak how we can bridge the gap between sharing data and make value of it and still keep our data sovereignty. How can we keep the control over it? It happens that a supply chain looks like this. You realize that I'm also citing from the Viloma project that Matthias already mentioned. And there are many different actors that provide different types of data, suppliers, logistics service providers, OEMs, and distributors maybe. And there are also other data sources like public data, like weather, currency data, and so on. And these data, they, on the first side, have to be integrated. They have to be used integratedly to make the best use of it. And they are marked with a different type of sensitivity. So today, of course, it's typical to have a sender address, to have a pickup time that you share. But when it comes to data like the milk run route of a haulier or risks that occurred in a supply chain, that's something you really actually want to hide and you do not want to share with another party in the supply chain because you might be punished or something. Or even when we speak about internal capacities, that's something you do not want to share. If you could provide your internal capacities to your customer, the customer could plan with a much better flexibility because he knows your capacity usage in your plant. Of course, you would never do this because that's highly business critical. However, if we were able to do this, then we would have a lot of efficiency potential or even completely new business models for data value-added services, for example. So what we need for this are two things. We need a data model to exchange the data in a supply chain ecosystem, and we need a mechanism to exchange this data. So the basis for all is the digital twin, what we call it. And as you see in this picture, we have the physical layer at the bottom, and above there's the information layer, which has the corresponding object in the cyber world, which belongs to an object on the physical world. If each participant in a supply chain ecosystem has data, has an information brick according to the digital twin, then that will provide you visibility. You see where is data or where are objects in your supply chain, and you get transparency. What are the reasons and what are the possible consequences when certain things occur in a network or in an ecosystem? So this is the digital twin, and that it gives you a lot of advantages. You can see, is data consistent? For example, if different parties provide inconsistent states, then you can see, okay, there's either a data error or there happened something to the supply chain. You can have a history of storing data from the whole supply chain and maybe to learn with machine learning algorithms for future cases. You have an integration of all data sources in one handleable process model. And finally, in terms of simulation, scenario analysis, you can see how the system would act in the future, either if nothing changes or if you act in a certain way. So this is the thing, how can the data be modeled? But now we have this topic, if we have a data model like the digital twin and we share the data, we know we can do we have a lot of benefits, we have some efficiency gains, we have this data sharing topic, we have maybe new services like new business models. But when we look at the capacities, internal capacities, for example, we have this problem of data ownership. Who's creating this data? Whom does it belong to? Is it sensitive? And data has a value, either for a potential customer, like a market value, or because you invested money to generate this data. And you can bridge this gap if you provide data sovereignty, which is the ability that you can self-determine the use of data when it's in your sphere and even when data was transferred into a different sphere, for example, to your customer. What you need for this is a smart data management, which is depicted in the middle of the slide. It can connect in a standardized way different data sources. You might remember the first slide, data from public, from the public, data from a certain ecosystem like a value chain, data from the value creation side, either from logistics or from production, for example. And on the customer side, either if you talk about B2C, then you can have a full integrated model of the end-to-end customer process, or from the industrial services when you offer hybrid products. A technology that Fraunhofer developed, funded by the German Ministry of Research, is the industrial data space. It's a large initiative that was initiated a few years ago, and we developed a reference architecture model which acts as an infrastructure, IT infrastructure layer, building upon the physical infrastructure that is existing today, or like 5G in the near future. And it serves as a basis for smart services for different domains. This is crucial because when we talk about new ecosystems and new value generation, the value comes not from merging the existing standards of one certain domain, like some certain domain, but to integrate different domains. This will give you the boost of a new business model. So the industrial data space is an infrastructure that gives you the opportunity to exchange data peer-to-peer from one point to another without a party in the middle that could, see your data or misuse your data. And by the industrial data space vocabulary, you can add meta tags to your data, which allows you to determine for what purpose, for what IT service, by which role, for which time, data can be used in a receiving software gateway. And in this data space, then you have the opportunity of data sovereignty. You can determine how data can be used. What does it mean for practical application? What are innovative scenarios in the automotive industry when you apply such a combination of digital twin as a data model and industrial data space like a infrastructure providing data sovereignty? On the execution level, you could apply it in the context of supply chain risk management. If you look at this picture, that's the Fukushima nuclear power plant. And this catastrophe affects certain suppliers in your supply chain. And at this time when it happened, a lot of OEMs somewhere else in the world asked themselves, do I have parts that come from this region? And if yes, what is the impact how does it affect my production? The problem is it's not always the first tier supplier, but it's the second, third, or any other tier supplier that might be in a region. So what you have to create is transparency, and if companies are able to connect dynamically by the help of such a digital twin in combination with industrial data space, demand requests can be easily pushed recursively through the supply network. And if a certain condition matches, like in this case the region Japan, then a supplier could be asked to provide certain information. And if this information, the capacity fulfillment, is handed over to the next tier downstream, then each level can consider the buffers that are in the supply chain and can give a profound preview of how the capacity fulfillment will act. Another perspective, which is probably more revolutionary, is the level of supply chain design or planning. Today, supply chains are very constant, very fixed. For many years, you have the same order of companies that fulfill the processes, and the changing of the process is a very sophisticated action. In future, the idea is that companies provide services, individual services, that have a digital twin, which allow companies to orchestrate a service supply chain more dynamically, more flexible. If each service has a digital twin containing the capacity flexibility, pricing models, and so on, companies like an OEM can orchestrate their supply chain much more flexible. And as technologies like the industrial data space keep your data sovereignty, you do not have to be afraid that the critical data in your digital twin of your service blocks could be misused. So there are small, this digitization concept provides efficiency gains and small innovations, for example, on the execution level, and in this case, rather revolutionary changes on the design level. The idea of the industrial data space is not just a visionary thing. There is the Industrial Data Space Association. It's an association registered in Germany, founded at the beginning of last year. It started with around about 20 companies. Volkswagen was one of the founders of this company, and now it grew to more than 70. I see that, for example, DB Schenker is not yet on the slide, so the number of companies is steadily growing. With Huawei, we have the first company from Asia, which is also, of course, a larger company. You see T-Systems. And the initial idea was to consolidate the requirements from the application side of the industry. But then it came to the question, now you have this great concept, how can we apply it in practice? This is the point in time when the IT suppliers came into the association, because they are now requested to adapt the architecture that I spoke about. This architecture is about to be a DIN specification by the German Institution for Normalization and Standardization. And if we can create the necessary network effect, then this industrial data space will be able to provide the ecosystem to have a flexible supply chain environment also in automotive industry. I hope this gave you some interesting insight into this visionary concept, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Jan. I think it's a topic that's relevant again, particularly following what we heard from Volkswagen around data sharing, but how we can enhance security and be able to share without perhaps compromising aspects that are critical or proprietary. So lots of interesting topics to discuss there. Next, we'll move to the perspective of a logistics service provider, Emmanuel Arnaud from Jeffco.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, Louis and Chris, for inviting me to this impressive panel of experts and not less impressive moderator today. I'm happy to be on stage, and I probably have a different angle and bring a different perspective to that session. Initially, for a traditional logistics service provider like Jeffco, the evolution of the supply chain ecosystem could have been seen as a threat, basically. And at Jeffco side, we prefer to see it as an opportunity, which certainly requires a high level of dynamism to face the needs for transformation in our internal environment. So what I would like to share with you today is to speak about three main levers that we see to support, from a LSP perspective, this transformation to a broader supply chain ecosystem. And the first one that we see is the evolution of the skill set of our teams. Because the first one element that we need to assure is that while starting a transformation process to live in a broader, in a larger environment, we need to make sure that our teams embark on that journey. The second aspect that we definitely see today is collaboration, and I know that it's one of the motto of Louis and Automotive Logistics conferences for many years, to be able to build collaboration. Definitely, pyramid organizations are dead. Even matrix organizations are outdated. Today, we are living in an environment where every party of a supply chain, be they OEM, Tier 1, Tier 2 LSPs, have to communicate on an active basis to ensure the overall reliability of the system. And finally, the last element that is transforming our activities, obviously technology. And I'm not speaking there about flying drones in my garden. I'm speaking about bringing technology down to the shop floor. So for this afternoon, instead of giving a long lecture about what we could do, we have preferred to show you a quick video about a new activity which has started at Jeffco on January 2017, and I'll be back right after.
Sur le site PSA de Mulhouse. Mon rôle a été double, j'ai pris la direction du projet ZIF pour constituer l'ensemble des moyens de production que vous voyez ici et de l'organisation qui en découle. Et depuis plusieurs mois, j'ai pris la direction générale de la filiale. Quand nous avons été choisis comme prestataires pour PSA, nous avions champ libre pour créer l'ensemble des moyens de production que vous voyez ici. Le rôle de Jeffco dans la mise en place de ces process a été complet. Nous avons choisi l'ensemble des meilleurs équipements industriels pour la partie standard. Pour la partie spécifique, nous avons travaillé du design au choix des fournisseurs, à la réalisation, jusqu'à la validation technique des équipements. L'offre Jeffco pour cette usine PSA est totale. Nous achetons, nous transportons, nous préparons, nous assemblons l'ensemble des produits qui seront ensuite montés sur les véhicules. Donc, la problématique et la demande initiale de PSA était de se focaliser sur le montage final des véhicules et de confier l'assemblage des sous-ensembles à une société extérieure. Les principales étapes de production gérées par Jeffco sont multiples. Nous achetons les composants, nous approvisionnons les composants, transportons, puis constituons les kits avant la mise en place sur le process pour produire l'ensemble du sous-ensemble, en l'occurrence la planche de bord par exemple, avant la livraison finale sur le véhicule. En plus de l'ensemble de la supply chain gérée habituellement par Jeffco, ici nous allons procéder à l'ensemble du montage, l'assemblage de la planche de bord ou de la vitrerie ou du volet. Ce partenariat entre Jeffco et PSA dure depuis plus de 15 mois. Deux étapes principales, la partie projet de avril à décembre 2016, puis depuis janvier, la production en masse sur nos outils, sur nos moyens, des sous-ensembles à produire pour PSA en juste à temps. Nous avons étudié, nous avons designé, installé l'ensemble de ces process, construit l'ensemble de ces process avec des partenaires, étudié l'ensemble des moyens spécifiques de montage pour que PSA puisse avoir un produit fini conforme à ses attentes.
in the light of this activity, I will come back to the three levers that I initially mentioned and spend 1 minute with you to explain you how these levers have in fact become enablers for Jeffco to transform its activities. The first one is about the people. We had to train hardly, severely, our team to convert the use that they had to have logistics practices into being operators for assembly. This has required, obviously, a very important investment inside the company about quality processes and study about what would be the best optimized flow at every step of the production line, because here we speak about production rather more than logistics. The second aspect is that we've been, from the day one, we've been awarded by our customer, and there I would like to thank PSA for accepting Jeffco to display this joint activity. From the day one we won that tender, we've been starting immediately a multilateral project team. And I'm not saying a bilateral project team, it was really a multilateral project team where we have, as Jeffco, embedded immediately engineering companies together with the automation companies that we have selected to proceed with this assembly project, to be able all together to design the best layout inside the factory of PSA Mulhouse to be at the same time productive and cost effective. The activity performed by Jeffco in that case is not only about assembly, it's also the management of the inbound transportation, the replenishment of the part, and finally as well, the fact that we are the one party purchasing the parts which are building at the end the dashboard and the rear panels. So we are behaving just like a tier 1 supplier in that occasion on behalf of the tier 2 suppliers which are giving the responsibility to Jeffco to assemble the final dashboard and rear panel. The ecosystem there is quite extensive. We are using 250 parts coming from more than 100 suppliers. So we have to keep the pace and we have to make sure that all the tier 2 suppliers, part supplier in that case, are following the schedule that we are giving them. And finally, you've seen on the movie AGVs, fully fitted, designed cradles for the handling of dashboard, for instance. You've seen pick-to-light, you've seen converters, you've seen automated deliveries. All this is part of what we've managed to bring down to the shop floor to make sure that we were, in actual fact, extremely productive in this operation, and we are not putting people in addition of machines, or to say it differently, that we were optimizing the overall flow to be able to have the overall competitiveness, obviously. And having done this type of investment, which is quite significant in terms of automation, we also had to make sure that we will get to a 100% use of these production capacities. So that led us to modify our IT system to be much more agile in terms of the forecasting, according to the planning given by the customer, in that case PSA, to be able to maximize the use of the assembly line and maximize the use of the automation. So it's really about a transformation of mindsets, a transformation from, I would say, an LSP perspective into a supply chain integrator, just like Jeffco is aiming at being today. And this transformation is really something that we are proposing you all together to embark. So you got the hashtag Transform Automotive Logistics. We are happy to join the community and to work with you to also help and support transforming your own supply chain, whoever you are in this environment and ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you, Emmanuel. I think, again, really touching on some of the key topics there. I mean, skills, collaboration, the connectivity side of it. A great example of what Jeffco is really blurring the lines there between who's the manufacturer, who's the provider, who's the supplier. It's the sort of exchange of data and collaboration there that really seems to drive that service. So thank you for those examples. Before we move into our Q&A, our last set of speakers, again, this will be a dual presentation. I'd like to invite first Fabio Pellegrinelli from Iveco, and he'll be joined afterwards by Marco Simonesana from ISST. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon to all of you. It's a pleasure to be here. I will introduce you a technology that makes the logistics more sustainable without increasing the cost. Before going into this, please just let me introduce the Iveco brand. Iveco brand is one of the 12 brands of CNH Industrial. CNH Industrial is a leading company in capital goods who operates with 12 brands, as said, and whose stocks are traded on New York Stock Exchange and Milan Stock Exchange. Sustainability is one of the core values of CNH Industrial, as this year is the 6th in a row that the CNH Industrial is the sustainability leader in capital goods industry. Iveco brand operates as a manufacturer of commercial vehicles for freight transportation in 3 product ranges: light, medium, and heavy vehicles, and is a specialist manufacturer of construction sector vehicles. Our values, our core values on which is based our strategies, is our technology, the focus on the total cost of ownership, the business partner with our clients, and sustainability. The best combination of these values are alternative tractions. CNG, LNG vehicles are part of our extended range of alternative traction, and we are offering the market light, medium, heavy, and buses powered by natural gas for all kinds of missions our customer needs. These vehicles are the perfect combination between technology and sustainability without losing the focus on the TCO, because as said, they are sustainable also for the economical side in terms of operational costs. So today, the road transport is facing some challenges, some important challenges. On one side, it's asked to reduce pollutants emission and CO2 emissions. On the other side, to operate at competitive costs, as said. To answer these challenges, Iveco has found the answer in the natural gas. That is the most effective alternative to traditional fuels that is available today and is cost effective and also effective in terms of versatility. So no doubt about the environmental aspects. As a natural gas vehicle, here is the comparison of an heavy vehicles, natural gas, with diesel Euro 6, so the latest evolution in terms of emission levels. Natural gas vehicles allow us to reach minus 32% in terms of NOx reduction, minus 96% in terms of particulate matters, and up to 15% in terms of CO2. This CO2 saving can reach 95% in case of using the biomethane. So, according to the well-to-wheel calculation. All this getting also a 3 dB of noise reduction. 3 dB means 50% less as perceived noise for the users and the people around the truck. As said, all of this is compatible with economical sustainability, because natural gas vehicles can also offer competitive TCO, reducing even the TCO compared to the diesel vehicles. And the good news that this technology is already available, fully industrialized, and as said, versatile, because we can offer natural gas vehicles from vehicles dedicated to the city distribution to the long haul. As shown below, it's more than 20 years that Iveco has been investing in these technologies to be ready today for the energy transition that we are living. If we look at the product evolution that we were able to develop in these 20 years, we see that thanks to the product evolution, we were able also to reshape the market. As much as version were coming, as much as mission we were able to cover. In the history of natural gas vehicles, we had the two main breakthroughs. The first one was the introduction of natural gas Arctics, and the second one is the introduction of the LNG technology, so liquefied natural gas. We had some references about during our lunch, applied to vessels and ships. Here is applied to trucks. This product evolution, the product offer that we are featuring now, the widest ever, allows us to, as I said, reshaping the market from a niche to a volume market, from an environmental driven only market to a TCO driven market, from general to specialized mission. Of course, we are still working in order to enlarge our product offer and satisfy more and more missions. There is one point that allows us to look to the future with enthusiasm. That is biomethane. So a methane gas that is not fossil, but obtained from the digestion of organic waste. In this sense, the natural gas vehicles become an important part of the so-called circular economy. The circular economy is based on the concept of transforming waste into resources. So imagine that you can feed, you can supply, you can fuel your truck with the biomethane coming from the waste, the organic waste, both industrial, agricultural, or any other sources. Just to make you an example of the potential of using trucks fueled with biomethane, if we make the comparison of the CO2 saving, if we take a truck, 40-ton truck, fueled with biomethane, is like we can get the same CO2 saving as we can get if we have on road 72 electric vehicles. 72 electric vehicles charged with 100% carbon-free electricity, so it means obtained from renewable energies. This is a way to answer a market demand, because are the sustainability leaders in each industry asking for sustainable transport, sorry. A transport that is not a problem, but a solution to their needs. It's not by chance that supermarket chains are in the top line, as is one of the sector more interested in this kind of technology because of the benefits they can get from it. In this scenario, we launched last year our new Cirullies natural power. We worked on all the aspects our customers were asking to improve, like the space in the cab, the engine power, and the range. We did it. Now our new Cirullies is the gas truck with the most powerful engine on the market, has the best range ever, up to 1,500 kilometers from one refueling to another, automated gearbox, and all the other features in line with diesel trucks. The commercial success was great, is great. We were able to get more than 1,200 orders since the launch, and also many awards in different countries. Are the innovative transporters now that are leading this energy transition? Here is just an example of the more than 100 clients in 15 countries that preferred the Cirullies natural power for their activities. Here On your right are highlighted the most interesting examples based on the number of units of the deal or the share of natural power vehicles in their fleet. Or, moreover, the innovative approach in using such vehicles in unexplored missions, like the case of ISST, who was the first company using Cirullies MP for as car transporters in the long haul. Some words about the scenario, because the scenario is favorable to look at a transition from the niche market to the mass market we mentioned before. Because, first of all, the network, the distribution network of natural gas was the limit of the development of this technology. Now, times are changing fast. Even if we had some countries with very good network of compressed natural gas stations, like Germany, for example, or Italy, they didn't have LNG stations, so liquefied natural gas stations. Now, the situation, as said, is changing fast. This is a picture about the LNG stations in Europe. You can see that the coverage is quite good. It's possible to do international transport, intermodal transport in most of European countries. As we heard during our lunch, the bunkering for LNG ships and vessels will also increase the availability of LNG in Europe, and for sure will help to develop further the network in Europe. Also, the other aspects are favorable to the development of this market. First of all, the price gap from natural gas to diesel that may vary country by country, but is important. And the outlook is that the industrial cost of the natural gas and LNG in particular will decrease in the future. On the other hand, other advantages we can mention, the fuel saving, because comparing the kilos of gas needed to perform a mission and the liters of diesel to perform the same mission, we can have up to 15% of fuel consumption reduction. And then the favorable political decision and action at European and national level in order to develop this market. For example, we can mention relevant subsidies in most of European countries. An example. As said, CNH Industrial is a sustainability leader in capital goods industry and made possible to prove that these vehicles can be used efficiently in logistics. The CNHI Go Green project started in 2015 with the examination of all the CNHI flows in Europe, performed by about 650 vehicles that can be involved before the 2018. 150 vehicles are already substituted with natural gas vehicles and are performing various kinds of activities, both in inbound and in outbound flows. Some example, heavy truck cab transport from two plants, light commercial vehicle steel panel transport, and the multimodal flow from Italy to Spain. The outbound flows are for heavy trucks and also for light commercial vehicles. As you saw, we are committed 360 degrees with the development of new products, with the commitment to inform properly all the stakeholders about these new technologies. We are committed with sustainable logistics, and we are also working to develop CNG and LNG stations, so the network, working closely with the gas companies to have the stations where our customers need them. Iveco tells is clearly with its payoff, wants to be the partner for sustainable transport and be side by side with the transporters ready to catch the opportunities the market is offering. Like the case of ISST, so I would leave the floor to Marco that will give you the feedback about the real experience made on road with the LNG trucks. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here to give a short feedback in terms of user on the field about the application of the natural power technology just presented from Mr. Pellegrinelli to the transport of finished vehicles. Some number about us. ISST Automotive Logistics is a part of FCA Group and is a car carrier leader in Italy and Europe in the road transport of vehicles. Our number, more than 700,000 vehicles shipped per year, 211 on a truck, 80% of our flow in Italy, 20% abroad, 4 truck terminal, 2 in South Italy, 1 in North Italy, and 1 in Poland. Our commitments in order to create value for our stakeholder and our customer are flexibility, that means fast reaction to changes on customer needs, readiness in case of peaks and catastrophic event, transparency, that means usage of a track and trace and telematic system, sustainability, that means optimization on loading factor and miles, and usage of low emission transport. And the last but not least, innovation, that means continuous improvement and benchmark in order to be better, faster, and cheaper, and test new solution on the field. Moved from this pillar, and thanks to the stronger relationship with Iveco, we realized our ISST Green Fleet 100% natural power. This project is a perfect example how it's possible to combine economical growth and environmental sustainability. The idea started at the end of 2015 when the interest about the natural power technology had a strong development in different sectors of the road and among big carriers, mainly driven from political favorable decision and product offer more and more wide and policy of sustainability policy of a big company. At this point, with our president, Mr. Weiss, we decided to explore also the possibility to apply this technology in the road transport of the vehicle. The project took more or less 1 year and 3 main phases. First phase is the feasibility study that included the 3 years LNG outlook in terms of cost trend, LNG versus diesel, LNG station, available in the 2016, available for the next year, match between the network of the station and the network of our distribution, and third point, the possibility to combine the standard equipment with this type of a tractor in order to avoid then homologation issues or impact on loading factor. For this, we involve our partner, Rolfo, and altogether collect all elements important to move to the second step, and physical test on the road. Together with Iveco and Rolfo, we realized a test vehicle matching a tractor CNG LNG 800 kilometers of autonomy with a standard equipment properly adopted to this tractor. We regularly registered this vehicle and we submitted for over 8,000 kilometers in different routes with increased difficulty of length and with increased difficulty and length. At this point, and also with different mix of the configuration. We, in more or less 1 month, collect a significant number of data. Based on this data, the outcome was that absolutely confirmed the fuel consumption versus LNG versus diesel, full applicability in the road transport, but we needed more power and more autonomy for our type of mission, in line with the standard of diesel. Iveco in 2016 was launched at the end of the year, and version with these characteristics, the new Cirullies, 400 horsepower, range up 1,500 kilometers. And at this point, we had the all data from the test and the version available in order to put in place the business case. And this is the third phase. We compare with the same mission, with the same product, and truck LNG versus truck and diesel, considering also the government incentive in Italian. And the business case took positive versus LNG. This result, combined with the clear environmental benefit, got the approval from our president and from FCA this project. And this year, the vision that started 1 year ago became a reality, and we put on the road the first 10 new Cirullies equipped with LNG. In this day, from March, we are regularly using this truck across the Italy. Practically, we already loaded in every FCA plant and as well on Suzzara. And we deliver across Italy until Germany, France, and Switzerland, and the next day in Zeebrugge and Antwerp. The LNG station network is developing quickly, and the actual after 2 months confirm exactly the assumption expectation of the project. After 250,000 kilometers, we can confirm that the fuel consumption is less 15%. The range up is until 1,500 kilometers. The fuel cost saving is 25 versus diesel. We save 30 tons of CO2 until now, and on full year perspective, 156 tons. Average speed aligned with diesel version in all type of route. Positive feedback for drivers, highly specialized and specifically trained for this type of truck. Also, in terms of loading factor, we are experience good performance in the limit of the road and safety directive with high level of flexibility. I want show some just a sample, and this load is totally aligned with the standard on the European truck transport. 8 Jeep Renegade, 8 Fiat Tipo, 10 Fiat Panda, 7 Alfa Romeo Stelvio, and so on and so on. 6 Maserati Levante, 3 Daily. I can confirm that we can move vehicles with a high level of competitiveness and without losing on loading factor. I will arrive at the conclusion. For sure, IFAST will continue to explore new, innovative, and sustainable solutions in line with the trends of the world. We suggest to consider this solution as an alternative way to move finished vehicles because it's competitive, it's effective, it's sustainable, and it's fully aligned to the mega trend of the market. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fabio. Thank you, Marco. I mean, it's very encouraging to see examples of kind of win-wins on the environmental side and cost side. I think it's obviously an important topic. It's big on the strategy levels of any major car maker. If you look at Volkswagen's strategy to reduce, or anyone's sustainability plan, but obviously making it work in the real world and seeing these results, this is a very positive sign. So thank you again for those examples. Thank you for everyone for sharing your insight. We don't want to be late for dinner, but we do have about 10, 12 minutes or so for some Q&A, so we don't want to lose the opportunity there. We'll have some mics going around, so I can first ask if anyone from the audience had any question they wanted to kick us off with. Okay, I see a hand back there. If you say your name and company, please.
Hi, my name is Heinrich from Kapka, and I have a question to Marco Simone Sonner. Is LNG limited, let's say, to use tunnels? So if you have these trucks with natural gas, can you use tunnels? Drive with them through tunnels?
Can you drive through tunnels?
No, absolutely. No restriction Italian. We absolutely the same route of the diesel.
Thank you.
Okay. Maybe I can quickly ask some of other panelists, since we heard about LNG here, we heard also about obviously USCC's ship earlier today. Perhaps for Jeffco, for example, do you have examples in your network where you're using some alternative fuels in this direction or others, and maybe also from Volkswagen side, specifically on the inbound, obviously?
Effectively, we have started using electrical vehicle probably 10 years back for capillary distribution in larger cities. It's part of what we are also proposing to specific customers to implement. Not yet on the car carriers, so probably an idea for the future.
We within the Volkswagen Group, we are using battery-driven tractors for trailer yards in some plants, and we are we have our own truck company or companies, and we are there with them in the discussions where to bring them into our processes and support them, and also to support us with our efficiency programs that we have for the sustainable inbound processes.
And also perhaps just getting the panel to talk to each other a bit. After the Fraunhofer presentation on data sovereignty, as it was put, and it coincided nicely with your project, I mean, how would you see that? Are you involved in that? Do you want to move that deeper into your supply base? I'm sure you want to see the supply capacities within your suppliers as much as detailed as possible. So what's the potential here?
Yeah, sure. The more information we share, the better it is for everybody within the supply chain. We are part of this project here from the IDS group. I'm not sure if it makes sense for us with our 8,500 suppliers to step into the second, third, fourth, fifth tier level. It needs to be there if it's necessary. So what I'm looking for is more to have it for the, let's name it, the heavy items or the most critical scenarios that we have. And if there is a scenario occurring like Fukushima or others, then to have it quickly on your hand when you need it for everybody within the supply chain. I think it doesn't make sense to have an overview on a daily basis for all the supply chains that you have worldwide. There might be some critical components that you have to monitor on a daily basis within the second or third tier supply chain. But I'm not sure if you need it really daily in a war room, on your board, monitoring everything. There might be some incidents where it's necessary, but not on a daily basis for everything.
Any further comments, questions from the floor? You're all thinking about that beer already, I can see from the Matthias, I think you mentioned trying to get, or hoping to above 80% of your carrier base or forwarders in the discovery program at the end of this year. As it's a web-based platform, is the transition fairly straightforward? Or are you facing some difficulties, challenges with some companies, maybe for whom it's just a new process?
We are challenging always some good discussions for the process. This is something that I really appreciate. When you get into discussion with your partners, you always face where are the crucial points, where to step into more in detail to find solutions for any kind of problems that are within the supply chain. And yes, there are always connecting the information within the different systems. The IT systems always is a big problem. So preparing them, we are not going there and say, okay, tomorrow we will start. There always is a time for preparation where we go there and say, okay, now we would like to start with you 1st of August. What is necessary? How are your EDI formats developed in using it within your internal systems? How is the process IT-wise supported, etc., etc.? So we go there and say, okay, this is our proposal. What can be done? Where are weaknesses? Where can we support, etc.? And then we develop a plan together with our service providers doing it. And then we make also one official kickoff with all of our suppliers, because the service provider is not the one legally to discuss with our suppliers. We support them, we go there, we inform them, we are those who encourage them to do that, and we are the ones who are the escalation team for any incident that there is for if there are things that are not solved. The good thing is that within the regions where we've started it, we have come up to 90-95% quite fast within the first weeks. And the good thing also is those who have started this program that didn't go out of the process. So they haven't gone out, they support, they say, once they've seen the benefits, they've stayed in the process, and this also is a good benefit for us. And there is always, to be sure, to be honest, the last 2 or 3% of partners that are not willing to support changes in the process. You always have to face them, and they receive a special treatment.
Yeah. Emmanuel, does this, as Jeffco, I can imagine that there are roles in which you play in which you're also acting in a similar way in terms of whether in the 4PL side of the business or maybe for PSA. Do you have a similar platform in place, or is that an objective as well for the carriers that you also work with?
Actually, we do. We are even pushing further the boundaries. I think in the next weeks to come, the regulation will change in terms of the alignment of the data costs for roaming a mobile phone within Europe, and the prices will decrease and will be limited. So for us, it's a tremendous opportunity to equip the international drivers with apps on their smartphones to be able to return information back to us on the actual execution of the transport. So not only sending orders, but also getting feedback from the drivers, and having a kind of e-Kanban principle where you could actually know when the truck is loaded, what's in there. We've got an initiative with one specific OEM from that perspective. Also, we've been working with Fiat in the past to implement such kind of devices. And the fact that technology, the cost of technology will go down, will immediately enlarge the scale and the opportunity to grasp and to grab this information, bring them back, and feed the OEM with the actual achievements that's been done inside the supply chain.
Yeah. But this is, from our perspective, interesting to observe. We were recently in China for our China conference there, and there we heard about some use of WeChat, for example, that some companies are starting to use to scan and to communicate directly with drivers. So it could be an example where China perhaps is leading, but interesting to see this coming. Jan, looking at this perhaps a bit more broadly, in the first session today, I'm not sure if you were here, but Christoph Stürmer maybe made a slight joke, talks about Germany's connectivity as perhaps not being the best in terms of mobile networks. So when we talk about the connected factory and all this potential for data, actually do we make too many assumptions sometimes about the capacity and capabilities that the networks or individual areas can actually handle?
Oh, yeah. So I also heard Christian Stürmer's presentation. It was very entertaining. Well, I don't think so. I know when you travel by car or by train through the German country, then of course, yeah, you have some interruptions. But I mean, on the one hand, 5G is coming. I'm not sure in how much this will cover the network more densely, but there's the thing of narrowband IoT coming up. So the 1G standard will be used for an IoT data transmission network. And this will have a very long range and very good signal perception even in buildings. But it is made for very small amounts of numbers of data, small data. So I think there are new technologies coming, and I think yes, in some way there are assumptions, but I think it will be a question of time until they are gone.
Yeah. Well, it's good to hear. I mean, although if we might want to talk to British Airways about some of the problems that can happen if things with IT don't go exactly right. So hopefully we won't be facing there. There's many other things obviously we can talk about. I mean, if there's any last question from the audience, I'll let the audience have one more go before I release you into the reception. I take that as a sort of no. But perhaps that's where we'll end it, with this sort of positive look into the future. Obviously, there's many other topics around critical parts. I mean, we've seen some of the disruptions recently to production, which have hit in Germany, which we've seen. And so obviously this is quite critical topic. I think every panelist brought something quite interesting to the table, so I want to thank everyone for their contribution again. If anybody is on the live app, we will flash those questions again, as we've said. So if you're on that, please do give a quick feedback to us about how you found the session. And tomorrow, if you're still here, as I hope you all will be, because we have a fantastic day, a lot to go, please give us feedback on some of the iPads that are going around the room. But now let's let the fun begin, so to say. We have a coach which is already ready to leave outside the hotel for the first go, and we'll have another one about 15-20 minutes later. So please join us. Thank you all for your participation today, and we continue into the evening. So thank you.